Something vital, and it's about Okada riders, issues around Okada riders and road crashes. Whereas it were, Okada appears to be an economic incentive. It generates employment according to Economic Working Group on National Nigeria Economic Security Agenda, NESA, warned Nigeria that Nigeria will lose billions of naira and millions, about 20 million jobs, should federal government go ahead with its plan to ban commercial motorcycle. But having said this, we can also shy away from the hazards. We can't shy away from the nuisance posed by commercial motorcycle riders. I want to put that into perspective this morning. We have in the studio, well, a gentleman, the PRO of Trace, and we're also expecting another guest. So, issues around Okada riders and road crashes. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Moses. Good morning and compliment of the season. I hope it's not too late to say that anyway.
Same to you. Okay, now, you are always on the ground. You recently, we heard that even a woman was killed in an Okada crash, and that was days ago. So, you know a lot, you can say a lot about the recklessness of some commercial motorcyclists. So, but where are we in the process of bringing sanity, in the process of curbing this recklessness?
Well, thank you very much again. I must say, maybe I should start like this. It's very unfortunate that we should be using motorcycle as a means of commercial transportation in this part of the world, because I don't know of any transport lexicon where motorcycle is being used as a means of commercial transportation. What we only know is that we use it for business, maybe for dispatch riding those years back, even though some of them still do it, and some of our people also use it as a means of conveying themselves to the farm, to do other petty trading here and there, not as a means of livelihood. But because of the economic challenge that we have, I know that a whole lot of water has passed under the bridge, some good, some bad, and some ugly. And for us to have now accepted it, I think it bemoans those that are riding, and even the unions, to be much more responsible, to be much more responsive, and to know the fact that they are carrying people, they are conveying families, lives is very, very important here. So they need to apply a whole lot of decorum, patience, caution, and even consideration for other years of the road. You mentioned about a woman. Actually, that accident, that incident rather, happened on Sunday. The first service of the year they were going. It is a family. The man that rode the motorcycle doesn't even use it as a means of commercial means of transportation. He was only using it to convey himself, the child, and the wife, who is also the mother of the child, to the church. The first service of the year. But what happened as they were going? You know how they behave. They weave, they meander. They are not always cautious and patient. In the process of trying to avoid a head-on collision with an oncoming motorcyclist, he had to swerve. As he swerved, you understand, I think the woman herself wasn't that balanced, because it was even overloaded. The bike was overloaded. The woman, the child, and the pillion rider, we call them the pillion riders. So when he swerved, suddenly the woman just fell off the motorcycle, and what we noticed, the head just hit the road, and that was the end. But I didn't think the woman was using a safe crash helmet, safety helmet, that would have protected and saved her, because the contact you have, the impact the impact of the collision, because he had a collision with the ground, was very strong, and the woman just gave up the ghost immediately on the spot. Very, very tragic and sordid, you say, and that's why we always advise that always use and fasten your crash helmet. And it's not some of those safety elements, some of them will use safety or a safety element that you use during road constructions, for instance, because these are different things. You need a protective crash element that's going to protect your eyes, your head, your nose, your ears, because the eyes is very, very important, okay? Because the real crash element you use, you have a protective screen, and you also fasten it tightly. It's not again you just put it on your head as a means of decoration, or you have a cap on your head. You fasten it because those that created and manufactured the bike knows that for you to ride it effectively and efficiently and safely too, you also need to be protected. So it's a whole lot of issues, and that's why we as an agency of government are charged with safety and charged with safety on our roads and control of traffic management in the state. We have been doing a whole lot of sensitization, enlightenment, education to ensure that once that we've known that it has now come to stay. Because when you're even reading a profile about the economic issue that surrounds it, the social implication that surrounds it, yes, over 20 million OKADA riders are in Nigeria. And is an industry that has over 20 billion now, just like you said, from the MBS that the statistic that was rolled out. So it needs to be managed in a way that lives will be protected. Unfortunately, we don't have a private driving school for motorcyclists because, like those of us in the industry knows, the quickest means for you to have a means of living in Nigeria today is via transportation, especially as a motorcycle rider. Yes, it's the fastest and quickest means. Because, take for instance, you can go to a trader and say, okay, or rather you can go to a trader, at least within the neighborhood. They should give you a Congo of rice, beans, whatever, for you to eat with the family. Then you pay them later. But you can't take a bike, going to get it to your destination, and tell the bike, okay, I'll give you at the end of the month. How can you do that? So they see it as the fast and quickest means of making money. And that's why you see every Tom, Dick, and Harry going there, to find a way of surviving as a way of survival. All right? So it's an industry that should not, let me be careful with the word I use. It's an industry that should not be cancelled with a wave of the hand. Okay. Even if there's going to be anything like that, it should be in phases gradually, because there are other implications that surrounds such swift, cancellation of the OKADA.
Okay. Now let me, because you have carefully also explained one or two things, I wanted to ask about the fact that there are no riding. You have driving schools.
Yeah,
but we don't have a motorcycle rider school. We don't have, even when they have driver's license, rider's license. I'm not too sure, you enforce it, and that's where some other people are also putting a little blame on, not only in Ogun State now, in virtually all across. Lagos State took a very strong decision. They outrightly banned in some various locations, and the question people are asking is, okay, what did our traffic officers, what were they looking at when we just had this swarm, when they just took over the entire landscape by storm, such that it's got so bad that you don't even have, I'm not too sure you have a robust data of, who rides an OKADA or who rides a motorcycle, who commercially, and all that. So people are now saying, okay, are we not also, our traffic officers and, are we not also relaxed in that area? And some also feel that, okay, when it comes to enforcement, for example, right here in Ogun State, I can tell you that for free. If you get to Ibarra roundabout, once, if it doesn't matter what the traffic light says, the motorcycle rider will go, whether it is red, whether it is amber, whether it is green. It doesn't stop them and nobody stops them. It doesn't look like, don't let me say nobody stops them. It doesn't look like, you know, they are arrested. It doesn't look like, you know, so it's like they've grown wings. So it becomes a little difficult to be controlled. Somebody will just get a motorcycle today, begin to ride. Nobody stops anybody. Nobody questions anybody. So people are saying maybe our traffic officers too, our traffic institutions too, are not doing enough. Do you have any?
Well, I want to disagree with you on that because just like they say there's this fallacy in law, they say there's fallacy of hasty generalization in law. Okay, because of the fact that you are not aware of the quantum of services that agencies like us are put in place, or maybe because you saw a glance of some of those issues, that doesn't mean we don't do what we need to do. You need to come to our yard and see the number of motorcycles that are there, that are waiting to be collected, you know, for those that have been apprehended and for those that have been penalized for one traffic offense or infraction or the other. Okay? Now, maybe you started with Lagos. Even Lagos as it were, Lagos hasn't banned them completely. They've only restricted them to some certain areas, which is okay because they also know the implication socially, economically, to the state and to the generality of Nigeria as it were. But having said that, government in its own wisdom, because you know, Ogun State, like the saying goes, we are different in our own way, the way and manner we do certain things. Even before some of those influx you talked about, there is this unit that we call Comoris. That's the Commercial Motorcycle Identification Scheme that's been put in place by government, because government also knows some of the implications of they are not being registered, they are not being controlled and managed, because you need to control and manage them. All right, and that was why Comoris was established, you know, to register all motorcycle riders. It's still an ongoing process, you know, as you are registering, some are also coming in. And you know, our terrain is very vast and wide. So it takes certain time before you can, in fact, it's going to be a continuous process until OKADA or motorcyclists don't ply our roads again. We are doing what we need to do and we'll continue to do it. The issue of them, I won't say all of them, some of them, because there is no way, there will always be recalcitrant in each and every human being. In some of us, let me say not in each, in some of us, we have those that are defiant. And those are the kind of people that we are looking out for. And we've been apprehending them, calling to apprehend them. You see, we have a team in Trace that are specially trained to apprehend some of these recalcitrants. When the traffic light says stop, some of them, they won't stop. And I even blame some of the pillion passengers they carry. Some of these pillion passengers, for whatever reason, some will even encourage them to move if they are in a race. Go, Joe. You understand? And even when there are issues, they are also being apprehended. The kind of support that we should get from the general public, particularly the motoring public, are not always there. Some of them see that we are interfering with their movement. Okay? I only hope that, well, I don't wish this for them, because when you see, we just mentioned of that woman that lost her life, it is the family that knows the pain, the grief, and the discomfort they are facing presently, because it's going to be a red letter day for them that day. Yes, it's going to be a red letter day for them for the entire of their existence in life, because he who wears the shoes knows where a pinch is anyway. Some of them haven't worn the shoe. They don't know what it means for you to lose somebody, for you to become a vegetarian, for you to become a vegetable for the rest of your life. They don't know. Until they know, then they will know that, we must take it easy and we shouldn't allow our greed and selfishness, or even the people around us, to push us to the grave, because you regret it for the rest of your life. You understand? So we have, take for instance last year now, for the year of last year, OKADA crashes, because I won't say accidents, because there's a difference between crash and accident. A crash is what we cause ourselves. Accident is an unforeseen, it just happened per chance. But these ones, most of what mishaps that we have on our roads are caused by us because of our greed and selfishness.
No, some of us think he's the father of my uncle.
Okay, that's been mystical too. Because everybody said it, he calls it RAIDS. Road Accident Immunity Delusion Syndrome, RAIDS. We believe, that we are so immune.
Because when you see, sorry to cut, because when you see some of these motorcycle riders, the way they ride, you want to think that
they have double lives.
And I don't think they apply brake. It doesn't, because I apply the road, and you constantly see them, and then you are asking yourself, it doesn't look like they know that there is a pedal, there is a brake pedal in the makeup of the motorcycle. And eventually when that crisis happens, the next thing their family, when they are saying gone too soon, they will say, oh, the witches and the wizards. Are you sure witches and wizards are not involved in all of these crashes?
No, that's a misunderstanding. Okay. And we don't believe that. Okay. You understand? We don't believe. Just like the phrase I just told you now. Yeah. Some of us, but that's why some of them will put charms, hemlets, around them, even on the vehicle, leaves and all whatnot, in the engine and everything. But they've forgotten the fact that what you are doing, one, we are all Yorubas here, and there are some certain deities some of us believe in. If you do certain things because of your own selfish interest, okay, without the generality and consideration of the others, that will not work for you, because it's for your own selfish interest. Some will do it deliberately to expose other people's lives and property to danger. Okay. So if that happens, how can you be secured? You are not doing it, even if you are not doing it correctly. But even it is a misnomer. Okay. For you to be doing that, because it's not right.
Well, Mr. Kimbi, you started with that tragic story, and I think it would have been tragedy averted, if that woman had worn a helmet. So,
and there's no overloading.
Yes. So it's the use of, it appears the use of helmet is optional.
No, the use of helmet is not optional. It's compulsory and mandatory. First, because like the saying goes, safety starts from you as a person. If you value your life, okay, because the premium we place on life in this part of the world is very, very minute. Okay. I don't know if people has other lives. This is the life of a human being, not the life of an animal. And as human beings, we are rational and reasonable. That's why we are different from that species. Okay? Safety starts from you as a person. If you value your life and you want to be safe, you do the right thing without even being beaten, being cajoled, or being enforced to do it. But in this part of the world, unfortunately, we love to be enforced. We love to be pushed before we know what is right.
I understand realistically, the OKADA riders are not using helmets.
You see, the thing is this. We don't say all of them are not using.
Well, majority of them.
That's still relative.
It's not relative.
Wait. Because some of those are saying you're right. Maybe it's because of where you pass or where you go through on daily basis. Okay? It's just like when you have people misbehaving on the road. When you have tourists, FRS, even the police, with their patrol moving on about, people behave normally. People behave rationally and responsibly. They respect. But leave the place. It's going to be in disorder. It's going to be in disarray. It's going to be more like a state of nature whereby every man for himself and everything. It's not right. But the thing here is that those that do not use their crash helmets, I mean safety crash helmets, not those other ones they use in the factories, or those that they use in construction sites, safety that you fasten it to protect everything about you, they are being apprehended for goodness sake. And like I said, motorcyclists are not easy to apprehend. You don't correct somebody for a wrong, and you now create another bigger problem, not only for yourself, but even for the institution and for the government as it were. You understand? So you need to be methodical in the way and manner you do that, but we still do it. And even that's why we are telling the dealers, some of those that sell motorcycles, because some of them are also very greedy and selfish. And that's why I keep on blaming man. Man, there's something wrong with us as a person, okay? when you are selling a motorcycle, there are 2 crash elements that you need to sell with it. Yes, it is. It is 2. Some of them will remove one and sell one. That's selfishness and greediness. Okay? It is selfishness and greed. Why are you doing that? And that's why you're also employing those who are giving them OKADA, as an empowerment to people. Let it come with crash helmets, crash safety helmets, 2, not 1. Because those that will also use it are also, they are part from the pillion rider. You also have the pillion passenger is also going to use it. Okay? So, come to our office. I want to invite you to our office. Come to the headquarters and see.
What about the issue of overloading?
You see, overloading is also another issue. It's not even overloading. Okay, I'll take some of those issues we have, the challenges, before I roll out some of these statistics we had last year. Overloading is also a very perennial issue. It boils down to you also not valuing your life. Why will you overload a motorcycle that is meant for 2 passengers, the pillion rider and the pillion passengers, with 5? There are some women that will bring all their children, they will put them on a motorcycle. Yeah. Everything they have in life, they will put it there. And if anything happens, just like Mr. Tayo said, they say it's the woman at the next door that is looking at them, that is causing all these things. Why will you do that? It's also an offense. And those that are apprehended are also being punished for that. Overloading is an issue. And that's why we are using this meal again, that please and please, let's avoid overloading. Some will say that as it is just from here, from OGTV here to Mechanic Village. Do you know what is going to happen between that?
The sport and
do you know? Are you God? And class doesn't tell you it's going to happen. Even though you know too that what you are doing is going to lead to a crash. But you still say that God will protect me. We abuse some of those things about God and protection. You know that what you are doing is a risky venture. So why do you do it? Another thing is that some of them, they don't wear smart clothing, apparel. Some wear flowing and flimsy garments. Okay. Understand? While some people while riding, they use some of those things, not to talk of the pillion passengers. And they know that some of this apparel may easily cut up. You can cut as it's riding. Okay? You cut, and before you know it, you go to somersault. Alright? Another thing is that some people don't wear gloves, thick boots. Some even wear slippers, bedroom slippers, to ride OKADA. How will you, because as an OKADA rider, you need to be smart and good to go. Some of those things are issues that we tell them whenever we have conversations or engagement with them. They invite us. Okay? Well, some even I can continue to say.
I mean, there are quite many.
There are many.
There are thousands.
There are many.
How overwhelming is this, for your men?
Well, it's what you have been trained to do. Training is key in military and paramilitary modus operandi. Training is very, very key, because without being trained, you talk of endurance, talk of the knowledge and intelligence, and even the psychology you need. Because yes, these are jobs also psychological in a way. You need to assess and think fast, be proactive. It can never be overwhelming. We are trained for it, and once you are trained for certain things, you must be up and doing to face it, to face the challenge. First, it will always continue to rear its ugly head, but no matter how you do it.
But some feel that the enforcement is not strong enough. That the reasons why many of them get away with this is because they are not apprehended enough, particularly maybe at junctions where there are traffic lights. Maybe there would be need for more men in those places, as deterrents actually, because sometimes when you want to arrest or you could create more havoc. But once they see that, okay, so some people are feeling that the enforcement is not enough. That's one. Okay. And then some also feel that, even at the point of entry, nothing is being done. For example, I could just, somebody will get a motorcycle today, and the next morning he begins to ride. no checks, nothing.
Well, that's feeling. I am happy you say they feel like that.
Okay.
You know, that, like I said, is also relative.
No, I use that feel because I didn't want to be too overtly condemning.
even if you are, my duty as a euphemism. I understand. That's why I listen the body. Yes, and that's why I said that I like the word that you use, a feel. Okay, that's what they feel. Okay. Because they've not been to the nook and crannies everywhere that matters. Okay. And that's why I want to salute the government and the military and paramilitary agencies in the state. There is a fabulous and very, very strong collaboration at the top, at the service commanders level, and even at the PR level, because all the PROs of all the military and paramilitary institutions in Ogun State, they also have a forum whereby they relate, they engage each other about some of these things. Okay. We can't be telling you here, the world, what we are doing at our own level and corner as military, paramilitary and intelligence officers, because these are intelligence things. Okay. Intelligence gathering are going on. It will continue to go on because it's a continuous process. We do apprehend them. You understand? I will continue to apprehend them. Now, but like I said, they are not easy to apprehend, so that you don't use the platform of correcting someone to create another bigger problem. How will you feel in the presence of apprehending someone that is running? You won't run again after any OKADA that breaks a traffic light. Okay? What you really need to do is that take the number and tell the other, if he's going through the same route, just give a signal to the man at the next route. So and so person is coming on. Look out and watch out. He has broken the traffic light. Those are much more matured and reasonable way, you know, of doing it and preventing. Are they reasonable? No. I mean reasonable way for us. Yeah. Reasonable way of apprehension. Okay. You don't need to be physical and go combat. Okay. You don't know. This is a century whereby things should be done in a way that will give you honor and respect for what you do. Okay. Okay. So please, let's continue to be safe. Because the statistics that we had last year, not very encouraging, because I know with the statistics, we are going to have more widows. Yes, we have more widows. Take for instance, last year, the number of crashes that we experienced was 80 crashes for OKADA. Areas covered by Trace and the police, because there is no way that we go that we don't invite the police there. And this is apart from where the police themselves work on their own. You understand? But we had 80 last year, and out of these 80, those were injured. Male, 145 were injured, and 43 female were also injured. And those who died, male 31, then female 2. So total death 33, total injured 188. So out of this, man is always the culprit here. Stands so tall like an Iroko tree, and that's why I said we are going to have more widows. So please, men, even the female and the wives, our wifeys, let's continue to employ it on our husbands, okay, to be safety conscious when they ride the road.
The year is still new because, I mean, these are stats and it seems the crashes are not abated. Is there anything else Trace will be doing differently, I mean, away from apprehension?
Yes, certainly. A new year comes just like when the government starts its own, before it starts the year, it rolls out the budget. Okay. What we'll be doing essentially this year is to engage the unions. I'm very disappointed the Akomoran man is not here. The Akomoran, the Amoran, and the Romo. Okay. We'll be engaging them in series of education, enlightenment, activities, because they need that. All right, they need it, and some of the policy statements have been made or sent to the appropriate authorities for this new thinking and reorientation. We hope and pray it is accepted, and that if that is done, we know that there will be a much more lesser and safer road for each and every one of us to use this year, because motorcyclists, they are a challenge. I won't say they are a problem. Problem is something that cannot be resolved. They are a challenge. They constitute a challenge to you and I when it comes to safe driving, safe motoring, and safe usage of the road. As important as they are at times for those very short trips, they can also be complicated And before you know it, or before you say Jack Robinson, you'll be at the other side.
Well, we can end on that note. Many thanks, Mr. Babatunde Akimbiyi, the Public Relations Officer of TRACE. TRACE is the Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Corps of Ogun State, a paramilitary outfit.
Under the auspices of the Ministry of Transportation.
So, many thanks for coming once again. Well, Tunji and I will see you again next week. But New Dawn continues. Another set of anchors will be here on Friday for another edition. Do have a lovely day. Bye for now.